Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm La Michelle Hecht, CPA, your real estate and nonprofit CPA. Today I'm going to talk about the heart of nonprofits, which are what? Their CEOs, their executive directors, their leadership. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about what they do, who runs it, etc. This is going to be a two-part video, so stay tuned. So in part one, I'm going to discuss the following questions. What is the title of someone who runs a nonprofit? Who's responsible for overseeing the operations of nonprofits? Who does the CEO of a nonprofit even report to? And who pays the CEO of the nonprofit organization? So let's go ahead and get started with question number one. What is the title of someone who runs a nonprofit? As someone who enjoys clarifying organizational rules and really explaining what nonprofits do, I'm here to provide some insight on this. So number one, the title tale. Imagine a book with different chapters. The title of the person who leads a nonprofit is like the book's cover, giving you a glimpse of what's inside. Flip through the pages to find out more. So some titles you would see is maybe a CEO, an executive director, a president, which is not the same thing as the president of the board of directors. So the title of the person who runs a nonprofit can vary wildly. So let me give some things of why people may choose different titles and what titles will be best for yours. So a CEO feels more like a captain of a ship. Think of CEOs as captains, steering the organization towards its goal. This title emphasizes leadership and the decision-making role in guiding a nonprofit. Another title I tend to see a lot is an executive director. An executive director gives more of a feel of someone who's directing everything, who's over the operations. So imagine them as like a director of a play, overseeing the operations, programs, and initiatives of the nonprofit. This title highlights the hands-on management aspect. Now, another title I tend to see, which is president, which is not the same as the president of the board of the nonprofit. Now, the president feels more like the leader of a pack. Picture the president as this leader, representing the organization's face and mission. This title involves playing a pivotal role in board interactions and external representation. So what's important is having impact force leadership. No matter what title you see or what title you choose for your own nonprofit, what matters is leading them in the right direction. What's most important is that person. You have to ensure that you're focusing on the mission, the vision of your nonprofit, ensuring its success, and making a positive impact. So why does this even matter? Who cares? Understanding the title of someone who runs a nonprofit gives insight into their role and responsibilities. With my expertise and a little bit of humor, over time I'm going to continue to educate you on nonprofits. So let's go. Time for number two, which is what? Who is responsible for overseeing the operations of a nonprofit? So, as before, these are who the people are. First up is going to be the board of directors. So the board of directors are the guardians of the vision. Think of the board of directors as a custodian of the nonprofit's mission and vision. These individuals, often with diverse expertise and backgrounds, provide overall strategic oversight. They ensure that our organization stay on course and make informed decisions, and they remain accountable to its purpose. Now, what we're here for today, the executive director or CEO. They are the operational captains. Picture a ship's captain navigating through the rough waters. The executive director is like a captain, steering the ship of operations. They manage the day-to-day activities, implement the board decisions, and lead the organization's efforts towards achieving its goal. Usually, the executive director is a paid position, and they are an employee of the nonprofit, and they're there every day in and day out, unlike the board of directors, which tend to oversee the nonprofit. And lots of times board of directors are not paid to be on the board, and sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't, and they're more of a big picture. They're not really there in the day-to-day operations, more like the executive director or CEO of the nonprofit. And another thing that helps is the staff and volunteers. And the person who really oversees the staff and volunteers is the executive director and CEO. And without them, we wouldn't have this organization. So the staff and volunteers is more like a symphony where musicians play their part to create beautiful music. The staff and volunteers are the heartbeat of the nonprofit. The executive programs engage with beneficiaries, manage resources, and contribute their expertise to bring the organization's missions to life. So why? Why is it important? Who even cares who runs this nonprofit? Think of nonprofits as vehicles of change driven by their beneficiaries, the community they serve. Their needs, feedback, and involvement play a huge role. It is very important who's running the nonprofit, the volunteers and employees within the nonprofit, and the boards that's overall overseeing the nonprofit. Nonprofit exists to make a positive impact on individuals, organizations, and communities and their lives. So, you ready for number 3? Who does a CEO of a nonprofit or executive director of a nonprofit even report to? Let's see. Imagine a relay race where there's different members passing the baton to each one to the finish line. In a nonprofit landscape, reporting lines also involve passing the baton of responsibility and oversight. So really, the board of directors are the ones who oversee the CEO and the executive director. They are the guardians. They really overview it. They guide the executive directors through the nonprofit's journeys. The CEO and executive director report to the board, providing updates on the organization operations, strategic initiatives, and major decisions. Board oversees the CEO performance, ensures alignment with the mission, and provides valuable guidance. And they also provide what? Collaborative leadership. That's another thing that the board is doing in helping the guiding of the CEO, the executive director of the nonprofit. So, nonprofits often emphasize collaborative leadership. So while the CEO reports to the board, it is important that they really work together in a collaborative type of way to make the nonprofit successful, to help it grow, to help it thrive. The CEO is the one who really brings in the expertise, and the board is really there to help them guide and stay in compliance with what is needed to be done within the nonprofit. So why does it matter? Why is it important who oversees the nonprofit executive director or CEO? The reporting structures in nonprofits ensure that the CEO is accountable to the organization's mission and vision. The collaboration between the CEO and the boards fosters not only a positive reflection on the community, but it also fosters effective decision making and alignment with the organization's goals. Stay tuned. Are you ready for last but not least, number 4? Who pays the CEO of a nonprofit? As someone who enjoys clarifying dynamics, I'm going to tell you who pays them. To be honest, the answer is a mix. Imagine a theater production where each role is crucial for the show's success. In a nonprofit organization, the CEO's role is pivotal. Funding their compensation involves a variety of factors. So, really, let's talk about this funding mix. Nonprofits rely on various revenue streams, whether it's donations, grants, fundraising events, earned incomes from programs, services, memberships. Part of these funds are used and allocated to the CEO/executive director's compensation. So, the decision matters. Think of board of directors as the conductors in this symphony. Board of directors also have families. They have a life. They have a home. So they too need compensation to be able to put their time into the organization and the hours needed to make the organization successful. Now, the determination of the CEO's compensation is based on many factors, like the organization's financial health, industry benchmarks, and also the CEO's experience and responsibilities. Another thing that takes into factor is how successful is the CEO in this nonprofit? Is it helping the nonprofit grow? Even though it is a nonprofit, the goal is to fundraise money, get grants, get funding, so your nonprofit can continue to grow and continue to help the community or individuals that you're there, and that's a part of your mission. So, what's most important about the compensation is having transparency and accountability. Nonprofit organizations should emphasize transparency in their financial operations, and the CEO's compensation is typically disclosed in the organization financial reports in Form 990. So usually you can look up their Form 990, which is Public information you can find online on various websites, including you can find it through the IRS website, you can find it through GuideStar, etc. And usually on the 990 form, it clearly lists what the executive director's compensation is. So, another thing I wanted to talk about within the compensation is reasonable. You just need to imagine a puzzle, and the CEO's compensation should fit within the overall financial picture of your nonprofit. Nonprofits strive to provide reasonable compensation that aligns with the industry standards and ensures financial stability for the organization. So why does it matter? Why does it matter what the CEO is compensated or executive director is compensated or paid within an organization? Well, this sheds light on the organization's financial stability and accountability. With my expertise and a sprinkle of humor, I hope to have clarified these aspects for you, and answered these 4 important questions about nonprofits and about CEOs and how they operate. So what is the title of someone who runs a nonprofit? CEO, executive director, president. Who is responsible for overseeing the operations of nonprofits? Usually the CEO and the executive director, who reports to the board of directors. So who does the CEO/executive director report to? They report to the board of directors. And who pays the CEO of a nonprofit organization? That is a huge mix between the different funders, whether it comes from program services, membership fees, grants, and donation/fundraising activities. Thank you. If you have anything you want to learn more about, put it below.